Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats. This is Thursday, June 5th, episode 202. As always, joined by Chuck McIntyre. Don Harris is not joining us today. Chuck, how are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
What?
Wonderful.
Let's see what I did there.
Mr. Can't here over here. You want to tell everyone how old you got today?
Yeah, I got old today. I went to the ear doctor thinking I just had wax in my ear that needed to be removed. And they went, nope, you have moderate hearing loss. So I'm going to go get fitted for hearing aids. That's going to be a real good look on the old man here, by the way.
They said it. You're not just full of wax, you're full of shit.
Yes, that too.
All right. Well, subscribe to the YouTube channel and send Chuck your regards because he's about to have hearing aids on just like my grandmother does. So
we can always do this.
You can't see either. So you really
I got the whole kit and caboodle not working.
Anyway, subscribe to the YouTube channel, News 4 Fox SA. Download, rate, review the podcast version if you're so inclined, wherever you get your podcast. Got a lot going on. So the Spurs, more rumors surrounding the San Antonio Spurs, including Kevin Durant this time being in the cards. A very popular, in-tune Phoenix radio host. Floating the Spurs as a potential likely destination for the Spurs Kevin Durant as a potential destination for the Spurs. We'll talk about that being a possibility. We'll hear from him as well. Gambo out in Phoenix. Great. He's been there for 30 years or so. I think 29 years over on 98.7. Used to listen to him when I was in college. Plus a lot on Project Marvel today, the transformational project that may or may not get done in downtown San Antonio and will require billions and billions of dollars to do it and millions of taxpayer dollars to do it. So we'll talk about that. And who's going to win the NBA Finals, Chuck? Do you know? No?
I don't know. It sure seems like everybody in their kit and caboodle are also picking Oklahoma City to do that, but I think we're in for a whale of a series.
Well, we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later as well, but want to start with I don't know why I didn't change that. Anyway, the Kevin Durant rumors going to the Spurs potentially. So a couple of weeks ago, ESPN Shams Charania said that there was mutual interest between Kevin Durant and the Spurs as being a landing spot there, since everything has fallen apart in Phoenix, like royally fallen apart in Phoenix when you get Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the same team and you don't even make the playoffs. It's pretty bad. This week, John Gambadaro, aka Gambo, who's basically been on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM Phoenix since I was born for the last 30 years. Very in touch with the organization, very in touch with everything going on in Phoenix. He added some fuel to that fire. So take a listen after Luis cues it up. Go ahead, Luis.
Keep your eye on the Spurs. That KD could have some interest in the Spurs. That might be a good landing spot for him. I'm not guaranteeing this, but I would expect that a KD deal would happen right before the draft if it's going to happen.
So we got about 21 days or so until the draft, 20-ish days or so. It's on the 25th, the first round at least. That means the timeline, according to Gambo, is about 20 days. What do you make of that? What do you make of the rumors? Do you think that where there's smoke, there's fire when it comes to KD going to San Antonio?
Well, I think there's smoke around KD. He's in the last year of his deal, right?
Yeah. He's got 1 year left. He's an unrestricted free agent at the start of next season.
There was a report, I don't know, it may have been this week, that KD to the Rockets was already a done deal, basically.
Yeah, and then I saw other reports that I think those are BS because according to Gambo and according to a lot of other Phoenix media, they haven't talked to the Rockets since February. So there's a lot of rumors flying around.
This is coming from The Athletic. So, of course, that's what this time of year is for. That's why we're all here, right? I enjoy this time of year. I love the spitballing. I love the fact that there might be a little bit of smoke, which then turns into a fire, or maybe there's a lot of smoke that turns into fire, or maybe it's just smoke and it's just nonsense and it just gets us all talking.
Maybe it's just an ember.
It could be any of the above, right?
But smoke combinations.
Does KD to San Antonio make any sense at this point? Can you make KD come here and make it make sense with the transfer of wealth going from one market to the other in order to make this trade or in order to facilitate it? I don't know that you can make the contracts match
I think you can always make the contracts match, especially with where the Spurs, where the Spurs are with their contracts, and they really don't have any huge ones right now. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is going to get probably a 4-year, $229 million deal in August. At least that's the rumor. Unless he signs before that, in which case he can get a 3-year, $44 million deal. But I don't know why you would leave $83 million on the table. That's just up to him. They don't really have a lot of big contracts. They have Devin, who's about $25 million a year, KJ, who's about 20, Harrison Barnes, about 20. All of those are pretty easy to match up because you need $54 million to match the salary for Kevin Durant. The question here is, I think the former of what you said, which was, does he make any sense to the Spurs? And upon thinking about it, I'm starting to come around to the side that it does make sense. Mainly because if you get KD, he's 36 right now, turns 37 in September. If you get KD, you're basically hoping that he gets you to the next step within the first year. Like, he's going to go somewhere where he can win a championship or make a considerable contribution right away. He scored 26 points a game last year for Phoenix. He has been a little injury prone as of late, but that's what's going to happen when you're 36 years old. Does he make sense? I think so, because depending on what you give up for him, you're accelerating the Spurs timeline to now. But I don't think you're hampering the future timeline. As long as you're not giving up, Steph, Castle, or De'Aaron Fox, or Wemby, or the second pick, your timeline is still a 10-year window. You're just making sure that the next 2 years are at the same level as the other 8. You know what I mean?
100%. I'm totally picking up what you're putting down, and I'm with you.
It's different than trading for Giannis. Much different than trading for Giannis.
Well, I don't know, because I mean, if you're going to ask me who would I rather have, I think that Giannis is more of an impact player and could flip your franchise quicker than Kevin Durant can.
And he would do it for longer. He would flip your franchise quicker for a longer period of time because of his age. But Kevin Durant's,
he'd be a stopgap measure.
But kind of, yeah. But I'm starting to come around to the fact that, like, a 1-year deal, I think he would require another year or two. You might, if you trade for Kevin Durant, you might sign him for 2 more years additional, so maybe a 3-year contract. If you have KD for 3 years at the end of his career, he's already said in the past he wants to end his career on his terms. He said that on Draymond Green's podcast. So if this is how Kevin Durant wants to end his career, he knows that this is going to be a 3-year end of career deal. Kind of like Chris Paul. Chris Paul came in, was a mentor for a year, knew that he just wanted to ball. He got exactly what he wanted out of the deal, was to come in and just play. Kevin Durant would be, okay, I can contribute to this young team with De'Aaron Fox, with Victor Wembanyama, maybe Devin Vassell's included in the deal, so we don't know. Stephen Castle, with Dylan Harper if they keep the number 2 pick. He can be the guy that leads them, maybe not to the promised land, but gets to the conference finals, gets to the conference semifinals again, leads this team to where they can start getting the experience to where after KD retires, if they don't win a championship with KD here, then they at least have that floor. They have that knowledge, that base to where they can take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think I don't think it would inhibit them at all, the Spurs, if they were to bring him in, right? If he's got 1 year left on his deal, yeah, you like having Chris Paul around for a year, right? If that's what it looks like it's going to end up being. So I don't have any problem with if that's their thinking at this point. I mean, I would rather have KD on this roster than not have him on this roster at this point, the way I'm looking at it.
And I think it all comes down to what's the asking price, right? Like, how much are you going to pay for a 1-year deal? How much are you going to pay for a 1-year Kevin Durant? He's going to be 37 years old. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Is that going to take away from the growth, the development of De'Aaron Fox, of Wemby, of Stephen Castle, of Dylan Harper? I don't know any of those questions, but I know that if you have Kevin Durant on your team, even at this stage in his career, you're a considerably better team than you were before.
Roger that.
And if you trade for him, what would be the asking price? The price, the reports, at least, we don't actually know what the asking price is, but the reports in March were that 3 number 1s and a young player was the asking price from Phoenix, or February, whenever the trade deadline was. Now there's reports that the asking price is going down, but those have also been refuted by a lot of Phoenix media. So we'll just say the asking price right now is a young player and 3 number 1s. You're not going to, if you're the Spurs, you're not giving up number 2.
if I'm the Spurs, I'm not giving up 3 number ones for Kevin Durant.
But if
I would if I could move some pieces that were already on the roster that have contracts, because you have to make those numbers work too. You just can't do
one of the
picks
floated
per
deal.
guy.
So the Spurs, I believe, and if somebody in the chat knows that this is wrong, can correct me. Go ahead. I believe that the Spurs, because they're not over the second apron, can take on more money than they send out. The Suns cannot. So I believe the Spurs will just have to get close to the money. So if you send, let's just say, a young player, Devin Vassell, let's say a piece to match that salary, either KJ or Harrison Barnes, and 14th pick, so that's number one, and let's say the unprotected Hawks 2027 pick. That's a pretty enticing offer to send for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant.
I would think so too, and I would not make the deal if I was the Spurs.
Why?
Because I'm not giving up those picks, because that's the future for a guy at his age, Kevin Durant's age. I'd love to have Kevin Durant here, but I'm not going to do it if it means giving up my number 1 draft pick.
But that's why you're not giving up number 2 this year. Like, if they asked for number 2, I think that's a non-starter at this point for Kevin Durant, because you're not going to give up Dylan Harper, who could be good for the next 15 years, for a Kevin Durant who you might only have for 1 year.
And Dylan Harper making rookie money.
Exactly. For at least the next 5 seasons.
Right.
So I think number 2 is off the table. Like, if you're going to trade for Kevin Durant, the starting price is Devin Vassell and a 1. You have to make the money work, so you have to add in KJ or HB. So there's your baseline for a deal. If they want another pick, which pick do you add in? Which pick swaps do you add in? They have a plethora of a treasure chest. A dirge. They have a treasure chest of picks that they can be like, okay, how about this one here? What's the value of this one here? What's the value of the 30 or the 2031 King or Timberwolves pick? What's the value of a 2030 Mavs swap that they had? They have this treasure trove of different ways that they can make a deal work. The question is, do they want to make a deal work? And is this part of the skipping steps that they have so relented over the past couple of years?
I think it is. And based on the way that you're setting it up, to me, this screams of skipping steps if you're going to give up number 1s to get an aging Kevin Durant at this point in his career. I don't think they would do that. Maybe they would, but I just don't think that makes any sense. Now, to me, Giannis is a little different animal when it comes to that. Different ball player, different age, different skill set, gives them something they really need. Checks a lot of boxes, that's for sure.
But when it comes to what the Spurs have said, at least publicly, and it could all be BS, they could be BSing us for sure, and it could just be lip service. But what they publicly is they don't want to skip steps, and they don't want to mortgage the future for the present. I think this is the one deal, the one player where you don't have to do that, because if you keep De'Aaron Fox, if you keep Steph Castle, if you keep Dylan Harper, if you keep Wemby, there's your base for the next 10 years. De'Aaron Fox, maybe not, maybe 5 to 7 years, but still Dylan Harper, Steph Castle, and Wemby for the next 10 to 15 years. Though that's your base. That's your Tony, Manu, Tim. If you add in I'm not saying that Kevin Durant is Robert Horry or anything, or Steve Kerr or anything like that, but if you add in that player to get you to your destination where you're going a little bit faster, but still not, I guess, make you fall from that destination when they leave, then that makes a lot of sense.
So you're taking it from the standpoint it's going to take a lot more to get be
100,000%.
Kevin Durant.
It'll take.
I'm with you on that.
It'll take 5 1s plus Steph Castle.
I would take some of those ones to get Giannis, but I wouldn't do it for Durant
because of the age.
In part because of the age, but because I think at this point, if I'm choosing up sides, I'm going to take Giannis over Durant at this point.
But but Giannis's game isn't going to age as well as Durant's has either. He can't freaking shoot. As soon as he starts losing a step physically, then he's going to have to completely change his game. And I don't know how that's going to age when he gets to 35 years old. If you really want to mortgage the future to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I don't want there to be any misconceptions.
Thank
you. Misconceptions here. I've talked a lot in the past 24 hours. Misconceptions here. I love Giannis. I think he's phenomenal. He's an MVP for a reason. He's an NBA champion for a reason. I just don't know if that matches up with what the Spurs want as much as Kevin Durant does.
Oh, I would think I'm on the exact opposite on that. I think Giannis matches up better with the vision of building your house one brick at a time than Kevin Durant for a year.
But I'm also looking at this not as Kevin Durant for a year. I'm looking at it as Kevin Durant for maybe 2 or 3, because I don't think that that's the only way to get to the Suns' asking price is to already have a pre-orchestrated deal with Kevin Durant. Kind of like we assumed that they did with De'Aaron Fox. We assumed that there was a little handshake agreement, or you're probably going to get the max in August unless you go on something unforeseen happens. I think that that's really the only way that you do this deal with the Suns is you have a pre-existing condition here. We're going to give you a 2-year extension for $55 million each year, $60 million each year, while you're not paying Wemby, while you're not paying Castle, while you're not paying Dylan Harper. You have the ability to do that. And you have KD for 3 years. And you accelerate the timeline that maybe you wouldn't have gotten to an NBA Finals or a Western Conference Finals in 2 or 3 years. Now you're expected to get there next year. That gives everybody a little bit more experience, a little bit more knowledge of the situation, a little bit knowledge of I've now been there before, even if you don't win a championship. That's where I'm seeing. And then he can go off into the distance. He can retire, and you now have that base with De'Aaron Fox, with Wemby, with Dylan Harper, with maybe Jeremy still on the team, with Steph Castle, of a team that can compete just like the Thunder are now. That's my theory.
It's fair. I like the way you spitball. I still like Kevin Durant of the Rockets better, but we're good.
I don't want him to go no, you don't want him to go to the Rockets. I don't want him to play the Spurs 4 times a year.
I mean, they would have to give up something to get him, but I mean, the Rockets are one of those teams like, I don't know that I would mess with what they got going right now, right? I mean, yeah, you could say you were hoping they would make a little deeper playoff run based on what they did during the regular season. But, these are the kinds of things that every front office is going for. Do you need more? Do you stay the course? I mean, more often than not, these teams feel like they need more and they make a move. And how many times does the move end up being right? Almost always it happens the other way.
I don't think that, I don't know. Do you think that if this deal, let's just pick a deal here. If you think this deal was the 14th pick, Vassell and KJ, let's just say 2 young guys and a first-round pick for Kevin Durant, would you do that deal? 1 first-round pick, 1, and it's the 14th pick.
Yes.
1 lottery pick.
I would be tempted if that was the offer. I would definitely be tempted.
You're keeping Jeremy. You're keeping most of your depth there. You still need to go out and sign some other guys, but that's a tempting offer if that's the deal.
It is. I mean, my concern would be that you lose a couple of JYDs in Vassell and Keldon. I mean, at least those guys are grit guys too, and I think that's what this team needs more of. But I would be tempted for sure.
I don't,
because I would. It sounds better going to a game when you know that you're going to watch Kevin Durant every night.
I just don't think that deal gets it done. I think they need to include another first. If you include, because the 14th pick is what it is. It's the 14th pick. They're going to get the 14th best player at best in the draft. Right?
I think in some levels though, Phoenix they're in a tough spot, right?
They are.
You've got 3 superstars and you didn't even make the playoffs. What does that tell you about that team, about those guys individually? You could go right down the list. So I don't know that you would necessarily have to mortgage the future per se, because they have to do what they can to try to figure something out, because what they did last year obviously didn't work. And it would appear that Kevin Durant's the odd man out, obviously based on his age.
Yeah, I mean, based on his age, also based on the fact that you basically can't trade Bradley Beal. Like he has no trade clause, and unless he agrees to the trade, you can't trade him. So they're between a rock and a hard place with redoing their roster now that they have a new coach and a new GM on tap over there.
So once again, the Spurs are holding all the cards.
They tend to do that.
They tend to have set themselves up very nicely in many, many regards.
But are they holding all the cards when it comes to Project Marvel? So you like that segue?
I did.
So we got an update on Project Marvel yesterday from the city. Wasn't as fulfilling of an update, I think, as a lot of people wanted. I was sitting there in the pre-briefing. I got the pre-briefing. I was in the room for the entire council meeting. There was a lot of frustration that we don't know exactly what's going into the Spurs Arena yet. Spurs Arena is just one part of this massive, massive plan to do any number of things, including redoing the convention center for $750+ million, redoing the Alamo Dome for $1 billion, building a huge parking garage in the south lot of the Alamo Dome in Lot A, building a new hotel down there, building a new school for UTSA, new building for UTSA, any number of things going on down in downtown San Antonio. But the main centerpiece of this entire thing is building a new downtown arena for the San Antonio Spurs. It's going to cost anywhere from $1.3 to $1.5 billion. We don't know who is paying for it yet or how much each of those things are paying for. We know the 5 vessels of what will be paid for or how it will be paid for. It's called the Project Finance Zone, which is basically over the next 30 years, state dollars in this 3-mile radius of downtown. The money that is accrued in that 3 miles is all state money, goes to the state, and they're giving it back, essentially, more or less. That's going to accrue $2.5 billion over the next 30 years. So they're saying that money will be used for this, as well as the Alamo Dome and for the convention center. Those are the 3 allowable projects. There's a TERS thing, which I frankly don't completely understand, so I'm not going to get into it. The venue tax from the county, which will, by all accounts, only be like $100 million to $150 million. So that's going to be a drop in the bucket when it comes to $1.5 billion. Then the Spurs, how much of the Spurs are going to give in, and then the private equity part of it. We heard a lot yesterday that the public money, which is what everyone's concerned about, taxpayer money, how much taxpayer money is going to be used on this? The mayor, the city manager, every city official I've spoken to said 0 public dollars will be used. 0 San Antonio public dollars. Obviously, venue tax is public dollars, but it's brought in by tourism mainly. Unless you live in San Antonio and you stay at a hotel in San Antonio, then I guess you're going to be staycations are being taxed. The part that I don't get, though, and the part that I asked the mayor afterwards, was they unveiled that the first 5 years of this, the infrastructure that goes along with it, will be fronted by the city or by taxpayers. $220 to $250 at most million, $250 million, as Bob likes to say. He likes to make it look bigger.
6 of this, half dozen of the other.
Yes, that's going to be paid for by taxpayers, and it's going to be through a bond and a bond election, likely in November. They have the deadline at August 18th to get that onto a ballot in November. So by November, people in San Antonio and in Bexar County could be voting on 2 things to help pay for a Spurs Arena. A bond, which will take care of the infrastructure around the Spurs Arena, not technically the arena. So they're right. Not technically the arena.
They are right.
They are correct. They're not paying for the structure.
You're paying for the stuff around it.
But if you don't have roads next to it, you're not really going to have an arena. And you'll be voting for the venue tax, which will go to the arena. At this point, there's a lot of frustration. We don't know any specifics. And at this point, there's a lot of unknowns about exactly how all of this plan is going to come together. There's also an unknown about what the hell the voters actually want here. Because there's been 2 surveys by UTSA questioning, are you on board with Project Marvel? And it's been very, very meh. So I just don't.
I have the answer.
I don't know how to take it from here.
I put a poll in your story last night.
Yeah, I know.
It asked, should taxpayers approve a $250 million bond for Project Marvel? 120 people have voted. 77% said no.
Well, good thing there's only 120 people.
I
have an issue with sample size here.
Only the best.
Chuck, what do you think? What do you think about this whole thing and how the process has gone to this point?
Well, I find it fascinating, the timing with everything, why there seems to be so much speed in doing it now. Do we have the answers to that yet? No, of course we don't. I find it fascinating that this is all happening while we have a mayoral election coming up, and that both candidates have had to surreptitiously, kind of talk about how they look at this, and without either candidate really knowing what's all involved, it's hard for them to make a stand one way or the other.
Just to touch on that, and sorry to cut you off. The neither candidate, they also said yesterday, Eric Walsh said yesterday, that neither candidate has been briefed on Project Marvel. So just FYI.
Right. So, but they're going to get the same briefing that I'm assuming that you got, right?
Probably. I mean,
So-
it's publicly available. You can go download
Right.
the entire 45-page slide if you
So
want.
on the first debate that they had between the two candidates, one candidate said no new taxes, and the other candidate also seemed to be in that same ilk. And so, again, this is a hot potato, right? There's no question. I don't know that I would want to be running for office and have to, not necessarily say yay or nay, because there's a lot to take in. And if you're not getting all the information, it's hard to rally behind yes or no if you don't have all the facts. So the way I understand it, and this is broad stroking, is we're going to all go to the polls in November, and there are going to be two items on the ballot that the citizenry is going to be asked to vote for, both involving taxes. One, pre-existing, it's already there, a fund that's already there that can be allocated and moved towards this project. And the other one is for however you want to call it, infrastructure. There's going to be an ask from the public to help support this initiative.
Yes. Clarifier though, it's not a new tax. Like this that is from the city's general fund, general bond, that they're going to have, or that they're going to send, at least right now, that's how it sounds, that they're going to send to taxpayers. So at this point in November, you're going to be voting on two things, and neither of them are new taxes. One of them is a raise of an old tax, likely the venue tax for the county. You're likely going to be asked to raise that from 1.75% to 2%. So raising it by 1/4%. And again, that's tourist tax, that's on hotel motel tax, that's rental cars. The other thing is a bond, city bond, that they're going to be voting.
They need infrastructure all through downtown. So, I mean, again, we're splitting hairs here, but the way I understand it is there are going to be two things on the ballot, and both of them have to go through. It can't be one and not the other. It's got to be both in order for this project to move forward.
The very telling part yesterday, and I didn't include it in my package yesterday because I ran out of time, was Mayor John Courage. That didn't happen. Councilman John Courage, who was on his way out, was asking why we're doing this so fast. And he had a question to Eric Walsh, which was, if this bond fails, what's the next step? What happens if the bond fails? And Eric Walsh said, there was no answer. There's no answer to that question. That was the question we all wanted to know yesterday. What if this bond fails? They're going to basically take it if it fails. The mayor kind of answered it yesterday, saying that we fail all the time. We didn't try it. We can't just expect something to fail. We have to try it anyway, even if it's going to fail. So, I mean, you can take that forward. It's just there's a lot of unknown, and at this point, what I don't understand is why there hasn't been the public campaign yet to try and get people on board. You're not going to get this done unless you get this bond passed. Probably. You need $250 million from the public.
They will not get it done unless both of those things in the ballot.
I don't know about the venue tax. I think they can do without the venue tax.
The way I understand it, it's not one or the other. It's got to be. We can disagree. I'm just telling you the way I understand it, and I'm pretty comfortable sitting here today. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the venue tax is going to be the smallest portion of it. So, I mean, it's going to be 100 to 150 million dollars. They've already said that they have $450 million pot to choose from, and it's likely going to be about 250 to 300 of that to spend on streaming costs in the prospect center there, and there. So you're not going to have much of that pie left from the county. The county's going to get whatever's left. So you're going to have a vote in November on that. Like, unless they somehow fumble the bag over the next month and a half at the county level, you're going to have that on ballot. What I don't understand is why there hasn't been a public campaign to try and keep up with. They're just starting now, next month. So that they're going to have public workshops try and hear from people of what people want to see in Project Marvel. Yes, regarding the Spurs Arena, but also regarding everything else that goes on with the 20 different projects that this bond money will go to, which is expanding the street to Travis, which is adding different lanes, like adding technology to the neighborhood around it, which is adding parking permit areas, and like there's so many things that go into it that I just didn't get into yesterday. But there's so many things that they haven't conveyed to the public successfully. And if you want people to vote to spend $250 million in the first 5 years of this 15-year plan on Project Marvel and on the infrastructure, you need to tell them what their money's going towards. You need to do it as in a mass way. And they haven't done that. And if you want somebody to vote in November, you got to tell them what they're voting for.
Yeah, I would assume at some point this is all going to get rolled out, and people have their timelines, but there are a lot of questions. I mean, is the timeline still the same? If it's a 15-year project?
Yeah, I mean, there's things that are going to be done 1 to 5, and there's things that are going to be done 6.
So, I mean, it's like
1 to 5 is convention center,
and so I guess, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking the same thing. Is we only have an arena that's 30 years old, right? I mean, it's not even 30 years old. It's built in 2000. When was the
I think they
prospect?
opened it.
So, okay, well, there you go. It's less than that. It's 22 years old. And if this is a 15-year project, are we going to need another project Marvel in 15 years? I mean, these are some of the questions that go through my mind with doing all of this. And then, if you're somebody who's a homeowner and your property taxes keep going up, and you hear politicians on both sides saying, yeah, we're going to lower your property taxes, and it never happens. And you just keep getting more taxes and more construction. And I just had my exit taken away from me on 1604. I can't even get to my home anymore from 1604 because of the construction that's going on there. And so now we're going to have more construction in another part of town, and it's going to take 15 years. I mean, yeah, this is a lot for people to digest. Do we need this? Do we want this? Who's it going to benefit? All the questions that both mayoral candidates have and have said repeatedly, I think those are valid points that are being made to this point. And to your point about why haven't they gotten more out in front of this, I don't know. I mean, that's a valid question.
Yeah, I mean, and right now we don't just regarding the Spurs Arena aspect of this. Like I said, Project Marvel's huge, and it involves a lot of other things. Just regarding the Spurs Arena portion of this, it sounds like, and I could be misunderstanding what Walsh said yesterday. It sounds like they're waiting on the Spurs. The Spurs are the ones that are finding the developer. The Spurs are the ones that are going to build the arena because they're the team. They're the ones that are going to be the primary occupants of that arena. They're still going to lease it from the city, but they're the ones that are going to be the primary occupants. They're going to take care of the building. So they're trying to find a developer who gives the city a guaranteed rate and a guaranteed revenue, I guess, projection of how much money this arena and the development standards are going to make, which that money will then go towards. It's all very complicated. But Walsh did sound, and this is just me guessing, this is my feel of the situation. Walsh did sound a little annoyed, for lack of a better term, that they don't have specifics yet. Because the city, it sounds like the city and the county are getting closer to how much money they're going to be able to contribute. It doesn't sound like the Spurs are ready to reveal their number, which is very Spurs. Like, you know that better than most.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a hot potato. It's going to be a really interesting summer because then, whoever is elected mayor of the city of San Antonio is going to have this as one of the first big things that they're going to have to traverse their way through one way or the other, right? Because if it goes through, there are going to be some people that are happy. If it doesn't go through, there are going to be some people that aren't happy. This is going to be a really, really tough road for a first-term mayor to have to traverse themselves.
This is just, to me, it's an example of how important messaging is. They have about 5 months to get people who vote in municipal elections, which is not a lot. It's people around your age, mainly
Mhm.
that vote in these elections. They have to get younger people to come out, they have to get Spurs fans to come out, and they have to get older people in our community to buy into what they're trying to do in the city, in which they will never probably see the entire fruits of those labor, of that labor. So it's a big ask. It's a huge ask for them to convince the community that this is absolutely necessary and that all parts of this are necessary and that they need to spend $250 million on construction and infrastructure downtown. It's a huge, huge ask. They have a big task in front of them to convince everybody, or convince 50%, 51% of the public, of the voting public, which is mainly not people like me, to do this.
Chuck, you remember what the message was for the crosswalk?
I remember, yes, quite a bit about that because I was in a meeting that I probably shouldn't have been in very early on that. The message back then was, if we don't build the Frost Bank Center, we'll move it. That was the message. But that's, to the Spurs' credit, they never rammed that down anybody's throat. They weren't saying, if you don't, we're moving. That was meant to be, that messaging was meant to be kept in-house. They never went to the public. However, the difference then was that team in '99 won a championship. Who didn't want to go to the polls to vote for keeping the Spurs? Because, again, I know what the messaging was. I know there were 6 or 7 other cities that were lining up to get the Spurs. I don't know that that dynamic exists anymore. We're in a different time now. You see the Tampa Bay Rays are playing in a minor league park this year. Horrible look for baseball. Who knows what to call the Athletics at this point?
They're just the A's.
Because they're not Oakland. We don't even know for sure if they're going to end up in Vegas. They're playing in a minor league park. Horrible look. Look at what's going on in Kansas City, right? Super Bowl champion multiple times over. They're not getting a new crib. So we're living in different times, and it's very, very hard. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks, why do they need a new arena? Make sense. That place is nice that they've got up there.
Because they want to make a casino district.
Well, I mean, there you go. So, I mean, that's what
I'm all
everybody
for that,
and that's fair, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
if that's your thing, you like to gamble and you like to go to ball games and you want it all in one space, I know how you're going to vote, and that's perfectly fine. There are other people that are like, been there, done that. I can go to the casino in Biloxi, or I can go in Vegas, or I can go watch my basketball here, there, or anywhere. So, it's literally going to be up to the voters of Bexar County to decide how they want to play this thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when they get all the information. And to your right, to this point, I don't think we've gotten it all.
Yeah, hasn't been a very free flowing.
A lot of bobbing and dodging and spinning at this point. And ultimately, it'll all be right there in front of us, and we'll all be able to make a decision.
Bob, got anything else?
We got a couple comments. Hanover Fist in the house once.
Hanover Fist, welcome back.
He says maybe Marvel will get done in bits and pieces, but it will get done.
Might be.
I don't know that I don't know that he's wrong. I mean,
No.
They're already tearing down the Institute of Texan Cultures.
Yeah, but
right?
that was going to get done anyway.
That was sneaky.
But I mean, it's like they're already doing things that make it look like it's going to get done.
It's like, I'm sorry, there's no judge that can actually rule on this.
They're like, actually, we started last week.
Yeah. So there are already things in place where they're moving forward as if this is going to happen. I don't blame them. I mean, you go until somebody says stop.
Fair enough.
Hey, what do they always say? The San Antonio's got like the mindset of a small town.
Yeah,
and I think this is what we're running into. I mean, not everybody wants to grow. Not everybody wants to make this town bigger. Not everybody thinks that we need to get bigger and better and all the time. We're just fine the way we are. And that's something the Spurs are going to have to really deal with.
Well, yes. And I mean, the other side of it is too, that, you're right. If we haven't done anything with that part of downtown in order to elevate that area to this point, why not Project Marvel, right? I mean, we've all said it. You look at the proofs of the imaging and everything else around that and what it looks like. Who doesn't want that in their own backyard, right? I want something like that here. I just want to know how we're going to pay for all.
Yes. But you can't say I don't want, or I want that here. I want that in my backyard without going through the 15 years of pain that it's going to take to build it.
Well, I disagree. I mean, that's why I pay exorbitant prices to go to a ball game. I mean, it's what are you doing with the money that I'm already chipping in to help fund whatever it is that I'm supporting.
I do think it's going to be hard for them to convince people without opening the books. Like, you're going to have to say the Spurs are chipping in $500 million. The city, this project finance zone is going to take care of X amount. This leases are going to take care of X amount. We need an itemized receipt for the Spurs arena for sure. And we also need an itemized receipt for what the public portion of these tax dollars are going to be used on. So I think that's really the only way you convince people to vote for these bonds. The arena can't be built without some of the other projects, because and the mayor said that yesterday. Some of the other projects are going to pay into that finance zone, which is going to bring in the revenue that is going to pay for the arena. So one doesn't get built without the other. They're going to need at least half of these projects to go through, and it's going to be really up to the voters this November to do it. So, all right, real quick.
Anything else over there, Bob?
We're already way over. I don't care. Keep going.
Are?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're having fun. I feel like I'm learning something here.
Well, I just wonder if they can come to some kind of deal where, they expect to make all this profit and all this money off this development, right? So can the city actually get a slice of that?
Yeah.
Can they work a deal? Maybe they get like 8% of the profits or whatever, in perpetuity, not just till they pay it off, but forever.
There is ways to do.
Well, I mean, other deals have been done that way.
nature.
You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think I've ever seen a stadium done that way.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's
a way over my pay grade. I just listen to 4-hour council meetings and then tell stories about it. So, real quick, Pacers, Thunder tonight, game 1 on ESPN, I believe.
I love
tip off at 7:40. What do you mean?
I love it.
You love that it's the Pacers and the Thunder?
Yeah, I do. I love that it's two small market teams that have done it the Spursian way. And ultimately, the stories are going to read lowest ratings ever. Nobody's watching, blah, blah, blah. This is the best thing long-term that could ever happen to the NBA, because the smaller market teams are showing everybody else how you're supposed to be going about doing your business, right? You don't have these exorbitant contracts where you're overpaying somebody. You've got younger players that are chasing that first huge big bag, but going to win a championship along the way. Two fan bases that have never experienced a championship before. And to me, the NBA should be applauding this postseason. I think it's been remarkable. The games have been fun to watch. There looks like there are high stakes for a change, which I don't think we've seen in a number of years. I think this is a win-win long-term, even if there's people in New York and LA that don't give a damn about what's going on in the NBA finals.
I would argue that this is what the NBA wanted, because the NBA has made it over the last few years and last few CBAs to where small market teams can keep their players easier. You can offer them things that other teams can't. You can offer them another year on a Supermax. You can offer them another year and X amount of money more to keep your superstars. That's how this Thunder team is going to be able to stay together. They're making it harder now a little bit with the second apron stuff and the cap, and that's all very convoluted. But I would argue that this is what the NBA was hoping for, was small market teams keeping their best players and remaining competitive, so you don't have a Washington Wizards issue, or you don't have a Spurs issue where, well, actually the Spurs are different because everyone got old and retired, but you don't have an issue where, or like a Brooklyn Nets issue, let's just say KD goes there, you have a super team and they don't do jack crap.
And that was a team that was ascending until they blew it up to
get all the superstars.
So,
exactly.
Like
so
Denver,
I would argue this is what the NBA was looking for, no matter what the rating.
I know this isn't a new revelation with, Denver did it the right way to me, or it was fun to watch Denver win a championship. This is going to be fun for me to whoever wins, whichever team wins. It's going to be enjoyable for me to watch and see that somebody has gone outside the superstar, super friend teams and gone and done it. Team basketball. Yes, they've got good players, they wouldn't be here, but now it's time for the Halliburtons to get some love. It's time for SGA to get more love than he's getting, on a broader scale. And now he's, one of those guys is going to have a ring, and nobody's going to be able to ever take that away from them. It's very, very good. I love it.
That being said, the Pacers are going to get their asses kicked, right?
I don't know.
Oh, stop!
I don't know,
dude.
dude.
Stop!
I mean,
it's a 5-game series.
I would. I mean, that's certainly the way it looks, right? I mean, Vegas, everybody I know is saying, yeah, it's going to be a whitewash in that regard. I just don't know, man. I mean, that would discount everything that's done to get here. And I don't know.
Let me give you one stat here. Let me pull it up. Keep saying why you don't know.
That's about it. I don't know much about either one of these teams. I like what I saw when Indiana needed a basket. Halliburton looked different, man. I mean, and they got dudes too. So I'm just really looking forward to watching how it all unfolds. And if it is going to be a 5-game series, I bet it's a competitive 5-game series. Kind of like the 05 World Series where it was a sweep, but 6 runs decided the whole thing.
I would argue that if the Pacers are going to win the series, they have to win tonight. You have to steal one. You're not going to win game 2. And the Thunder are going to blow you out at least twice at home. They've proven that over this entire season. They've already won 4 games by 30 points this season. You're going to get trounced at least once in Oklahoma City, likely twice. So I would argue that the Pacers have to win game 1 to at least have a chance in the series. Finals home teams in game 1 is one of the best bets in any sport. 16-3 ATS over the last 20 years and 17-2 straight up. So if the Pacers don't win tonight, I think they've already lost the series. And I don't think they're going to win tonight because that's just not history. The last 20 years have told me that they're not going to win tonight. The last team that was a underdog of more than 5 points to win a game 1 outright in the finals was the 04 Pistons, who won outright and ended up beating the Lakers in that series, who were heavily favored in that series. So that's what I got for you.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
So
I'll say
right,
it's a win-win for the league.
Who wins how many games?
All right, I'll say just to be the contrarian, I'll say Indiana in 6.
Indiana in 6.
Woo!
You're high. Whatever.
I'm not high, but I can't hear.
I'll be very popular bet here is Thunder in 5.
You know, I honestly, nobody's asked my opinion on the outcome of this series
except for me,
except for you. So
I
think the last time somebody asked me, I take that back. Somebody did ask me. I gave the same spiel that I gave you. Nobody pinned me down like you did. So I'll be the contrarian just to be the contrarian. I have no feeling one way or the other.
I want to look up real quick before we leave the odds for them to end this series in 6 games for Indiana. Yeah,
a gazillion to 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to look up real quick. I just want to see what the series price is. I'm just curious.
Might be worth throwing a couple bucks at.
Oh yeah, if it's a gazillion to 1, maybe.
I'm not going to be able to get it here.
No, you guys are not dragging me down the betting pool. I'm not.
No, I'm just betting. I would be willing to bet. I'll tell you when we get back in the other room. It's probably like 1,500 to 1.
Really?
No, not 1,500 to 1. It'd probably be like 15 to 1. Excuse me, 15 to 1 plus 1,500 odds.
All right, here's hoping Vegas loses a lot of money this week and a half.
All right, anyway, that's all we got for today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We will be back on Monday with more Sneakers Cleats. See you then.